break the law.
I really want you to know these details about my journey. Because if it sounds bad, good. It was. And now I am way the hell out of those problems. And that was not my prognosis. And though I'm happy to have gone from health to near death and back twice, I'm happier to have helped other people find this same way out. And I want to help more. And that's the reason for Green Crush. I don't describe these painful things for sympathy, but for clarity. And though it's true that much earlier on, when I used to think through these issues, honestly, I would cry sometimes. It would bring tears to my eyes that I was going to die. And all of the things I wasn't able to do, apparently. But a well-played hand has allowed me further ahead in the saga of not being dead. Yet the trauma of these trials, what to do about trauma? My British grandmother used to call me Master Allen, back when I had mastered nothing. And that's how I felt at the beginning of the disease. At first, a constantly simmering trauma that underscored nearly every moment from the day I found out I was terminal with stage 4 and every day onwards. For a while. Trauma in. This is going to hurt. How do I tell my kids? Why me? There must be a way out of this. I would have thought I'd done more with my life by now. Instead of most thoughts then, rife with trauma at first. And no one finds that hard to understand, given that on November 20th, 2013, I was happy to plug into a machine. And that machine jacked me with morphine, and I stopped feeling the pain scene that was quietly spreading on out from my terrible, unknown to me, cancerous 700 PSA prostate. Its first outside job, dismantling my rib cage. Supposed to be this walnut-sized man thing. Should be squishy like a plum, not festered down and immobile from cancer to the hardness of a cork. And it was just as effective as a cork, too. At narrowing down the urethra piss highway down to the footpath. The urethra. Strangely for men, the urethra has chosen to surround itself by this often misbehaving prostate gland. Because whether the prostate swells from prostatitis or some other diseases, or whether it shrinks from cancer or some, I don't know, dehydration problem, either way, it clamps down to a near zero drip, 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 or tries to but can't. It locks down like a clamp. And so keeping my huge bladder filled to the brimmer on my second wave of terminal stage 4 fun stuff, 3.1 liters of urine being carried way too long inside of my body at any and every given time. Yeah. That's actually, that's not going to cause me to cry, but it makes me, it makes me glad that I usually remind people not to listen to this show at the lunch hour. Thank goodness. It's 2 o'clock, 2:03, and maybe you're needing to go to the bathroom from work or something, and you might think about this, that my bladder was so filled to the brimmer on my second wave of terminal stage 4 liters that you'd think I could feel that. And I couldn't, because I didn't even have the physical mobility to slosh it around enough. I just thought it was a belly. Sometimes I had to go to the bathroom every 10 to 15 minutes with the pressure like you just downed 12 pints of draft. And now you're rushing to the bathroom to get rid of it. And so all of a sudden, for the third time on your way to work or class, you got to pull the car over to another donut store or a gas or petrol station or stagger and limp into a Starbucks. And you hear your voice quicker and higher than usual saying, "Hey there, do I need a key for the toilet or is it open?" It's hard to master the double digits of pain. But the whole time, you hold on to rein them both in, the pain and the piss. That's a great name for the rush to unzip and finally let slip the closest to sexual release you're ever gonna get. An amount of whiz that could easily be contained in an eyedropper's glass tube. Maybe a couple of those if you really push. And left unchecked, this isn't ugly, but an effective way to go insane. So now the diagnosis day morphine meant briefly I didn't have to wince, to cough or sneeze anymore. Zero pain, a refreshing state, otherwise a distant memory, was where I sat while being informed by the emergency room doc. "In a private room, please, just over here, if you don't mind, just away from the others, and we'll close the door, thank you." That I had irreversible, aggressive, advanced, stage 4, terminal cancer that had already metastasized into much of my skeleton. And my shoulders, collarbones, ribs, hips, sternum, and ankles can all vouch for that. And so can the bones around my ass. Wherever I sat, felt the target of a strongly swung ball-peen hammer. And that's a fact. Stage 4, gonna die for sure. Ha. Yeah, nice try, hooded death with the scythe. You couldn't take me. I'm moving on to stage 5. But I couldn't fit all of that in the title. Welcome to Green Crush, episode 11. Green Crush, what is that? It's cannabis crushing cancer flat. It's new, important information. It's old, suppressed awareness coming towards the light so you don't have to. To what, Paul? I'm leaving Paul out for a minute because we're going to feature Paul Flynn in a couple of minutes. Paul Flynn's a great guy saying that we need to break the law. He's a British parliamentarian, by the way. And he thinks we need to break the law. So that's what we're going to deal with here is facts. And sometimes I do put my opinion and teeter-totter it on top of the facts that when fully understood will crush the alleged laws that illegally prevent my access, your access, cannabis access, can access now, our right, our plant. So we're getting Green Crushed at episode number 11. Maybe you want to tell your friend about this show. Maybe your friend needs some help. Maybe you need some help. And maybe someone told you about this thing. Aside from some of the assumptions I've made, which I stand behind and am prepared to discuss and argue and debate with anybody, anytime, but preferably on the show here. Aside from that, you could call that an opinion, but I base all of these things on facts and research that I've done. And as much as I might get criticized by it sometime, I just have to look at the calendar and understand this is 3 years into my death, so I guess I'm right about things. Enough of the things that got me through it anyway. I'm just trying to express my journey through this death sentence, and everyone's a different person. Everyone's got a different biology and a makeup. But this door can work. So if you want to tell your friend about this show, maybe he or she got diagnosed with something recently, or you have a disease struggle, and they say soon you will have to do some rounds of chemotherapy, because that's just what you do. Entering one of the doors of conventional science, the second being surgery, the third being radiation. But Green Crush is here to reveal the inner workings and reasonable expectations of the very well hidden door number 4. So please download our earlier episodes, because according to feedback from the listeners already, they are very helpful. It's nice to know that. I'm glad to know that this information can help you the way it helped me. And if you download future episodes yet to be recorded, please let us know. How'd you do that? Because I haven't done those ones yet. So you're kind of freaking me out with that. And if you need to tell people about us and you want to know some things cancer related, go to our Facebook page, Green Crush. Just type it into Facebook, same way you just type this into YouTube, and go to Green Crush with Alan Park. There's also a Green Crush vegetarian restaurant, small chain in California. That's not me. That's a different thing. Sometimes Green Crush means a nice meal in California. Other times it means potential information that could save your life. Or information that could potentially save your life. So if you want to know how to find us and tell people, real easy, just go to Twitter and dial up at Green Crush Pod. Just enter at Green Crush Pod, because we're on the Podbean network at Green Crush Pod, where the green crush grows like the watermelon do down by the bay. So this is episode number 11, and it's the relayed message of a master stroke of life. I'm just passing the baton to a life beyond a guaranteed death, even if you're not an expert. Isn't that nice? If you have the inner conflict of disease, it doesn't need to be a war. But you might need to access your inner reserve of rebellion. So this is the 11th episode. It means time to get things done. What kinds of things are we going to do, by the way? What kinds of things are we going to get done? Well, let's get a little plug in here for a particular commercial. Let's try this. Is this going to work? I don't know. Let's see. No, that's not it. Oh, yeah, we can use that. That's okay. Here we go. All right. Got to do a little commercial here. And when you use your time to listen to this informational program, we'll also include a free interview with a top-notch expert, a man extremely knowledgeable in the healing ways of cannabis, vape entrepreneur and vape lounge purveyor, Anthony Foster. Yes, a vape lounge is a place where medicating is possible in a social setting rather than being ostracized into your tiny home by the mean bad government. So people go there and they medicate, and they're talking to each other, and they don't buy cannabis there. You always have to bring your own. Theoretically, I guess you're getting it from the proper sources and or your favorite dealer. And I'll be calling for a full-on boycott from the government-sold weed later. But if you're imagining that that's where I'm going with this, you're dead right. But anyway, Anthony Foster of Hamilton Vape is here today to discuss the approach of a business owner being put on notice that he is, in the eyes of the law now, a criminal. Because he wants to help people and provide them with a place to medicate. This terrible man will be on the show shortly. We'll bring him on. But let me get back to where I was going here with some things. Here we go. It's a good thing I wrote it all down, or most of it anyway. So we're downloading episodes. We got that done. There's your commercial. So once again, where are we? We're in Toronto, Canada. We're coming to you, Australia. We're coming to you, Ireland. We're coming to you, the Netherlands. And the United States is also listening. Very happy to pick up a lot of Great Britain listeners. Thanks a lot, you folks. I was recently on a Friday night show called the Jamie Ike Show on the internet. Damn it, we'll find out later and put it up on our page exactly where it is. It was a fun time. Got a lot of new positions and facts out there, so we'll throw it up for you later on. And we're here live at 2:03 EST, and we're always a little bit late. We were about 2 minutes late today, and We are in the delicious and fun-filled Pacific Junction Hotel number 234 on Toronto's storied King Street East. Come and learn different ways to fight cancer. Stay for the tasty food and drinks. Brought to you by Eggplant Digital Creations. Eggplant Digital Creations, the brainchild of Eggplant Digital. Eggplant Digital. We create creations and deliver them to your ear. See job availability for corporate slogan writer. Corporate slogan writing. We tell you what to do. Brought to you by the fact that too many people let others tell them what to do. What to do. The thing you learn in school. School, where you used to learn how to think, but now you just learn what to do. We'll be right back with a fantastic guest today, pretty soon. But let me get to one particular story about why I wanted this gentleman on the show today. We have in our midst a bunch of punks who hang out in a big old building that was long paid off years ago by taxpayer dollars. And they have decided to unfurl upon us a series of nonsensical rules and oppressive laws, I say laughingly, mockingly, that are beyond disgusting. And the terrible person doing this, you'd like to think it was Kathleen Wynne Premier, but these people, they shove these facts that they don't come up with in reality down our throats, and most people don't want to do it. So I don't know if she's coming up with it or not, but she's definitely facilitating the stupidity of it. So let's move to our Skype. I'm going to dial in our guest now because all of this is going to be relevant to him, and we'll bring him on in just a couple of minutes. Let's see how that goes. We are connecting now with the Skype box, the Skype machine, and while that's happening, yeah, there he is. It's ringing there. Okay, so while that's going on, we will tell you what's happening in the Hamilton Spectator newspaper back on September 11th. Hamilton pot shop owners are shell-shocked by Ontario's LCBO plan. Ontario being the province, if you're international, it's the region, the province that the city of Hamilton is in, about an hour and a half away or something from Toronto, pretty close, down the road, an hour away. And they have a lot of cool places there regarding cannabis and being able to use cannabis. And, we're all done being told it's not something we're allowed to have. And I'm going to be happy to bring on Anthony and some other people to help me dispel some of the nonsense with the bullshit that's coming our way. So we're going to resist. We're going to suggest other things. We're going to create speakeasies. We're going to do mail order. We're going to meet up at people's houses. We're going to do whatever the fuck we want because this is a right, and I'm just all tired of fighting things the old way, filling out a form and waiting 5 months. If I fucking did that to get permission to this cannabis that I used in my body to save my life, I would have been dead. I wasn't going to wait for these clowns. And I don't, and you shouldn't, unless you want to, be legal and die, or be illegal and be alive, like me. Bit of a pirate that way, I guess. I don't know. But I don't have any respect for someone telling me I have to dot my I's and cross my T's when my life is on the line. And that's what all of these vaping lounges are pretty much about. It's a place where you can go and do it because you're free to do this thing in a democratic sensibility in an area where other people also like to do that. And Hamilton was on the cutting edge of this. So these pot shop owners are shell-shocked by the Ontario LCBO plan. Let me read this. The Ontario government's move to distribute and sell marijuana in LCBO-type stores, that's the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, when it becomes legal or enmeshed in a series of legalese nightmares, they also need to shut down the illegal pot shops. And when they say illegal, it means not the ones the government is using to sell. Hey, there's a new guy in town. All right, drop your stuff. You're a criminal. Now we're going to do it, and we're the good guys. Is kind of how they're rolling it out. And they've got Conrad Floyd. He's a Hamilton Village dispensary member. He's part of the collective there, saying that Hamilton has 30 shops. Hamilton has created this entire industry within and around Hamilton, and now the government's going to take it over, he said. Everybody is just kind of shell-shocked. Floyd argues that not only is the private businessman and entrepreneur losing out, which is what they always tell us they want to foster here, But so is the city of Hamilton when it comes to taxes collected at the government-run stores. The tax money generated by pot stores needs to go back to Hamilton, not the province. And it goes on. And there are more stories such as this. So let's now turn to an expert and an owner of Hamilton Vape Lounge. Anthony Foster is on the line, and he's got a better take on this than just about anybody. How's it going, Anthony?
How you doing today?
Good, Anthony. Thanks for coming on today, all the way from Hamilton. What are you up to today?
Just a slow day at the lounge today. We're just hanging out. Got a customer in here. We're just chilling today.
Okay,
it's a hot day. It's a hot day, so we got the lounge all nice and cool. The AC's kicking.
It is hot. It's abnormally hot. We've had the hottest run of time since before summer started and all the way through pretty much. So, Anthony, let me ask you a couple of questions before we get into the legal problems and the struggles you're having. Let's go in order here and say that once upon a time, there were only, as I recall, what we used to call head shops in and around cities, and you would go in there and buy pipes and screens and all the accoutrement. It was back in the 70s and 80s and etc.
Yeah.
And so eventually, then we got to this thing called a vape lounge. So tell us a little bit about how that happened, what it really means, because there are a lot of people now who listen to this show for cancer-related reasons or other illness-related reasons. I talk about getting this stuff into your body as a nutrient. And I wonder how you can tell me exactly what it is. Tell everyone listening, because I kind of know, but you'll know how to say it better than I do. Exactly what are these places, and what are they for, and how are they beneficial?
So, well, you know what it is? I've always thought of as a lounge, as something like a cafe, something like you would see in like Amsterdam, minus the sale of cannabis. So it's just a place, you know what I mean, like a community, a gathering of a place where people can safely medicate with like-minded people. Like I said, there's no sales of cannabis, and there's no asking. We don't smoke tobacco or any blunts. There's no alcohol, no intoxication, just cannabis. And you know what it is? It's all about education. We kind of educate each other because we're all in the same kind of industry, right? We all like the same thing. And it's cannabis.
So a couple questions real quick. Why don't you sell any there? I mean, you're doing it there, you're vaping it there, you're ingesting it there. Why can't you sell it there?
See, that's the whole thing. We didn't want to go down a sale of it. Like if we wanted, we would have just in a storefront just like any other dispensary in the city, right? So but we wanted to go down this route. And you know what? We've been open for about 3 years at this location, and we've been safe. We have never had any problems, any issues with law enforcement. We've actually used the law enforcement, and they've helped us plenty. We've had situation with just bad people and trying to mess up our space, you know.
And you called the police to come and help you.
Yeah, they called the police and helped us out. Yeah, and they did. They were here. They sat down and they took the report and they checked out the space. And I explained to them what this kind of space was. We're not hiding. We're not hiding.
Right. It shouldn't be hidden anymore. That's the thing.
No. So, that's another thing too. Is like we are the ones that we actually organized the 420 in the city. We try to gather as many people in the same kind of community, in the same industry. So with like head shops, like you said, we reached out to some dispensaries. So some of them have helped us out, but it's more of the head shops. We have Crazy Bills, and where Heads Meet, and I'm really good friends with the owners of their shops, and because we are pretty much the same thing, except we have a location where you can also use and medicate and try the vaporizers or try some of the things, the applications, the machines, and that's what's so good too, is we've connected with the head shops, and as well as maybe we connected with a cannabis clinic, and if we have medical patients that are coming to our place to use vaporizers or learn how to use a vaporizer because their doctor said, hey, you got to stop smoking. You got to stop rolling up a joint and smoking or bong token or whatever you're doing from the pipe. You got to use a vaporizer if you want to use, you know.
Okay. And a vaporizer is a relatively new instrument, right? I have a
Yeah.
couple.
It's been, they've always led the way is Volcano. Volcano is the Stores and Bickle are German made. Like they're
Yeah,
hands down probably the best herbal vaporizer.
right.
Um, and for medical, and it's recognized in the medical field. Like all the licensed producers, all the Health Canada is telling you get a Volcano. They're actually selling the Volcanos, but I don't like how they're selling them. They're selling them like they're calling them the Medi Volcano. Every volcano is Medi.
Right. There's
They're
that
just
whole
trying to mark it up.
distinction. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
that
they're
whole
trying to mark it
distinction.
up, man.
So Anthony, and this might sound like, I kind of know the answer to some of these questions, but I do
Yeah,
get asked these questions a lot. So I think it's
yeah.
better that you answer them on the show here. So tell us the difference between vaping and smoking. I mean, a lot of people may want to try some of this because it's sort of becoming legal or because they've reached the end of the line with their medical situation. They're like, okay, I'll try this thing. What's the difference between smoking and vaping?
Well, we all know with cannabis, it's to get the beneficial attributes. It's all about temperatures. It's all about heat. It's all about temperatures. When you're vaporizing, you are doing a lot lower of temperature, as well as you might even be applying not direct heat. Where you have when you're smoking, it's direct combustion. Like if you were to put a heat gun on the temperature of a joint or even a bowl of a pipe or a bong, it's going to be a lot hotter, right? So vaporizing it's about temperature, and we always say about temperature, like because and if you look up, there's terpenes that actually heat up at certain temperatures, and those are those terpenes and that we use for our medicinal benefits. And it's wild, man. It's a lot of things. I actually just learned that recently. Like this is in the last because we discovered about terpenes. And cannabis is not just about THC, and it's there's a whole bunch of stuff we're learning more about.
Sure.
Like
Yeah, I was
so
saying that if you take kale and spinach and you do a sample, a research on it, and then they come up with so many nutrients, they put it in the food guide as one of the important greens. I don't know why the cannabis leaf hasn't been through this same procedure.
same procedure for sure, 100%.
Maybe we don't want to find out what's so great about it.
Well, we know about hemp, so you know what I mean. Like what? Like they're hiding behind hemp. What do you got? You guys are silly. You guys
Yeah.
are silly.
It is very silly. So what's going to happen now? So we've got a series of oppressive rules and laws that have been, as I once again remind everybody, been proposed by the government. And you know what happens to some proposals, Anthony? We have to turn them down. So in this particular proposal, how are you as a vape shop owner affected? What are they saying that's going to happen? And how have you been responding to this thing? Basically, you're put on notice as you'll be a criminal as of next year if you keep doing this. What's your plan?
Well, you know what it is. We've had bylaw come by our shop and kind of give us a direction and on where we might have to go.
Okay.
They never came at us aggressively or anything. Like I've heard other places that were running incorrectly. I don't know how they're running incorrectly, but like I don't know what they're doing. So that's none of my business. But the bylaws come into other places and have done aggressive. Like they've put down something. If you don't do this, you know what I mean. We're going to be doing that. Like we've never gotten that. But the bylaw officer has come, and I made a relationship with her. So me and her are keeping in touch. I'm also in the CCFBA, and they're
Is that a
part of
football
this.
league?
No,
What is that? Do you take knees in that, or what happens?
no.
I don't know how it works. I don't know what CCBA
It's a
is.
cannabis association that we're part of, and that is just a gathering of people that is in this industry.
Oh, okay.
Of lounges, dispensaries, and it's just like it's our backbone, because when we do have to lobby up together and when we need funds and when we need to come together, we can. You know what I mean?
Well, that sounds great. Yeah, just a collective or a bunch of commies,
collective,
as the government might call you, a bunch of commies.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're just trying to take care of yourself and protect. So this
sure.
body of people is so how responding. Like, what's your, and without giving your strategy away, if that's the case, what kinds of angle of attack are you looking on to protect your livelihood and this kind thing you're doing, providing a space?
We might have to operate a little bit different. Like we might actually have to. I just heard about something about research and development. So about inhalation and about vaporizing. So what we have to do is set up a shop, we would keep our space and then set it up as we would be collecting data from our customers. So they would be sitting down, we would maybe hand them a tablet, they take down and they do a quick survey, and then that way we're collecting data, and it's like, you know what I mean, in a medicinal
Sure.
atmosphere. That was one of the thing that came up, which we already knew about, because we already that was about last year, because that was when Bill 45 came around, because they didn't want, the thing in Ontario is it's about they're putting cannabis vaporizing is the same as e-cigarette vaporizing, and it goes into the Tobacco Act.
But what about the fact that it isn't?
Smoke free.
What,
I know.
What about the
I
fact
know.
that it's different?
It's different. Exactly.
I mean, it's as different as sitting down and eating popcorn as opposed to sitting down and eating a roast beef dinner or something. It's not the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, exactly.
This must drive you crazy. It drives me crazy, and I don't even have any money on the line. I have my own interest to pursue something that I know pulled me out of the jaws of death, and now I've got to hear about it surrounded by this series of regulations and nonsense. But well, I hope that we need to, folks like you, and when I say that, I mean vape lounge owners, not only just vape lounge owners, but anybody that's using this stuff for any reason, whether it's medical or recreational, it all ties in to be the same thing. And we need to do something about this shitty
100%.
fucking proposal, because I'll tell you what, I'm going to go into this in depth in a later show, but you say you've been doing this vape shop for 3 years now?
3 years, yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this question. 2 years ago, at about this time, this this elven dictator of Ontario, Kathleen Wynne, who does so many things that so many of us don't want to do, not just on this topic. I mean, there she was after announcing these new regulations, and she wasn't even there. It's a fucking paradigm shift, and she can't show up for it. She sends out the Three Stooges. But what happens is she's not even around. She doesn't even answer. The following Monday, she says nothing. I followed her Twitter for the last couple of weeks, and she's been twittering about, oh, I'm at the county fair. It's nice to have corn with the kids and blah, 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 and all these kinds of things. Oh, I'm at a meeting with someone from the American administration drumming up business opportunities for Ontario because the economy's got to grow, 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 while they shut down folks like you and an honest, burgeoning economy that could be taking place by people that know what they're doing, not some chump that comes along later to replace you who doesn't have a clue, right? This is the thing that's getting so out of hand now that we're just going to need to come up with a series of several rotating defenses. And this is the part that kills me. They know this is happening because back in the 30s when they outlawed alcohol, you want to compare it to alcohol? Okay, fine. Back in the 30s when alcohol was illegal, this even causes the creation of these speakeasies and black markets. The more you resist against it, it's physics, it's yin-yang, it's up-down. You can't have hot without cold. I mean, they don't seem to understand 100%. This, but they totally do. So as a vape owner, tell me this. 2 years ago, you may recall that Kathleen Wynne, before this hodgepodge series of laws for idiots by morons, before that came up, she passed a law saying that people with a medical officiality to their illness, if you will, whatever that's called, the official AMCPR, whatever people users that were using vapes, were allowed to vape on certain patios and within certain regions, such as where smokers in Toronto or in all over Ontario. I think the law is like you have to be 9 meters away from any doorway. So it would have to be done like that, and even on patios. And they put out this law about this time 2 years ago. The next day, they pulled it off the books and
I
said,
remember that.
"Oh,
I remember that.
sorry, yeah, we're not going to do that." Actually, it's turned out there seems to be some problems with this implication of this one single aspect of one single law, and so we are going to go back to the drawing board and try again. And now it's been 2 years and they've got like 150 laws, and all of them are more screwed up than the one they pulled off the table because it needed to go back to the drawing board. So I say this proposal needs to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
What was
100%.
happening with you those 2 years ago when she came out with that law? Like, did you hear about it that day, or was it too quick for you?
I heard about it, and you know what they did? They released the designated area signs. Do you remember that?
I don't. That's quick of them.
You could look it up. Designated vaping areas.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They made these green signs, Ontario, and then they pulled them. Exactly what you said the next day.
The next day?
Yeah.
Designated vaping area? That's a real thing? I've got to get one of those. They should put that on a T-shirt.
I was going to put that on our door. We should actually, you know what? That's another thing. I should get one of those.
That's going to be a rarity, finding an Ontario government permission to vape sign when now they're drawing up laws against it.
Let me see if they have it online
anymore. Take a look.
Maybe I can get it.
Take a look. We're with Anthony Foster of Hamilton Vape. You're listening to Green Crush on the Eggplant Digital Networks. Eggplant Digital, Canada's most creative digital production facility. Featuring Russell on the control board. Russell knows what he's doing.
Russell.
So yeah, it's really all about just understanding that this stuff is a medicine, and it doesn't need to be an operation. It doesn't need to be a really dark and heavy medicine. It just needs to be a shoot of cannabis reaching up for the sun, you know.
I just want a big flower.
A big flower? Did I hear you said a big flower?
Sure, I want to grow a big flower.
Well,
it's just we need these spaces. You're going to take these spaces away from, and then how do you have?
He doesn't hear me. Oh well.
There's so much stuff.
I don't know how he could hear me and not hear me at the same time.
Regulated alcohol, and you have bars. You have your bars. How do you? And then, if that's the case, then if they might see, but like fuck, man, I've already been doing this.
You've been trying to sort it out.
Do I have to apply for a license? Do I have to apply for a license to be a lounge?
Yeah, to do what you're already doing.
Is it something that I have to apply for, or is that what's going to have to happen, or are they just no lounges that?
Well, what I think they will do, based on where they're going already, like here's a thing that's been ruled constitutionally that we're supposed to be able to have it if they can't come up with a reasonable counter series of rules. They haven't. This isn't it. So basically, I don't understand how they can keep doing this, but what I think is they don't care how to keep doing it. And so what we're going to get to is this. They've said it's going to be a certain series of rules, like you have to smoke at home, you have to vape at home, you can't go out anywhere else. And they've got a series of rules that are all over the map and don't really make any sense, you know. So I think that while they also rule out edibles and ingestibles or whatever you want to call them at this stage, and we'll get to it later, we'll think about it later, I think they'll bring them in once they can control it better. And once again, it's all about control. And then they're going to control your industry. They will eventually get around to providing government-sanctioned vape lounges that'll probably look like, some prison hallway or something, like a government-sanctioned injection tent somewhere. You know what I mean? And just take all of the lifestyle out of it while they sit around there swilling brandy and gin, coming up with all these laws and smoke-filled chambers that prevent our access to these life givers. I mean, it's really disgusting to me. But I think what you're going to see is they will also decide, okay, we'll put a vape lounge here, and there'll be one between Kenora and Kingston, Ontario, and that'll maybe 3 or 4 along the highway, and that should be enough for us terrible people doing this terrible thing that they're finally letting us do.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they control the shit out of it. So anyway, so that's incredible. So that law is incredible, but I like that law. I like the Ontario designated vaping area law that came out. I couldn't believe it came out. I was very excited about a positive movement in this governmental stricture system. And then the next day, literally when have they ever put out a law that screws us And then all of a sudden the next day go, oh, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore because, we haven't really thought about it. They never do that. Like, who picked up the phone? Some police chief? What happened there? It's hard to know.
Yeah. I just looked online and I found a designated vaping area sign, but it's not. It doesn't say the Ontario, the trillium, the symbol, the Ontario symbol.
Right.
But I remember they came out and it looked exactly like this.
Yeah, we have to find one. We're gonna have to track one of those things down.
Yeah, we're gonna have these made.
Yeah, that's it. Get it made, get it done, and put the date on it too.
It should actually, instead of a vape pen there, it should actually have a volcano.
That's true. That's true.
It's recognized. You guys saying it's a recognized product, and you guys are selling it. Well, then we're gonna put it in the friggin'.
Well, do you think you guys are on track to take this on in any kind of a legal capacity, or the closer we get to push comes to shove?
See, that way is kind of scary. But my thing is, if we have to change our business, I will be prepared for that. Are they trying to say they're going to take a round? Okay, if we can't have a lounge, then why can't I have a head shop? Can I still have a head shop?
Right.
Or what's going to happen with that? You know what I mean? We already are pretty much a head shop. Originally I was selling vaporizers and
sure.
You know what I mean? Really only vaporizers, but we started getting into glass and other accessories and whatnot. And I have a good collection of stuff. So that does help with my sales. But I'm not going to lie, the lounge 100% helps me too as well, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It gives the space. We have our monthly members. We've had members. We have over freaking 80 members.
Right.
They come here every month to renew their license. Their membership, and it gives them their access to the space whenever they want. And we're open during the week. We're open from 12:30 to 10, and on the weekends we're open from 12:30 to midnight. So
right.
it's nice on the weekends. We're kind of more busy on the weekends too. So
give us those hours one more time, and then I'm gonna ask you about some special events that are coming up.
Yeah, for sure. We're open during the week from 12:30 to 10.
Okay.
So and then on the weekends we're open from 12:30 to midnight, from Friday, Saturday, and on Sunday we're back to regular hours, work hours already.
Sure.
So
and tell us where you are exactly, if you can.
1463 Main Street East, Hamilton, Ontario. We're here out between Garside and Cameron, between Kenilworth and the traffic circle, across from the beer store. Orange sign. Look out for the orange sign. Hey, people call me all the time. Hey, where are you located?
Yeah.
And it's funny because they're looking me up on Google.
Yeah. And you're across from the beer store, really.
Minute, how do you not? Google is connected to what? Google Maps?
Yeah.
Try using Google Maps.
Yeah, Google Maps, yeah. So that's
Map us.
So tell me what you've got a couple of promos coming up at the end of the month. What are you doing down there? What's going on?
Man, we're everywhere. Look it on my calendar. It said 26 Green Crush phone call. That's with me and you.
Well, that's already what we're doing. So that's that event. So good. I was able to attend that one. What else?
That's exactly. We got the Toronto Green Market on the 29th.
Green Market on the 29th. Thank you so much. Cool. I'll see you at the Green Market on the 29th. I'm going to crudely segue into a commercial. I'm also going to be performing at the Green Market on the 29th and for Nuit Blanche with several other comics on the show. So
that's so cool, man.
Come down. So we'll see you Friday. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's cool. And then October, we're working with Mary J's Munchies. We're going to go to their smoky, spooky event. That's on the 7th, October 7th. And then High Society Supper Club is doing another event at Planet Paradise on October 28th.
I get the pun. Well done. High Society. Yeah.
High Society Supper Club. They're amazing. They make amazing infused dinners. Check them out. Instagram it. And then we're going to have on that last Sunday of October, I'm telling this to everybody, last Sunday of October, we're having our Dab and Dine. And that's with infused dinner. We have vendors.
A Dab and Dine.
Dab and dine.
Right on.
We dab and we dine.
That is so cool. You know what I noticed the other day? We were talking about you and coming on the show and these fantastic meals that people enjoy at yours and other places, is that anytime you invoke the word infused, there's always fun involved. Have you noticed that?
Oh, yeah.
Just the word is infused. It's never a bad thing. He's like, it's never like, oh, he's infused with alcohol. You never say that. You say, oh, he's shit-faced or something. But
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you're
yeah.
infused, it's usually some wonderful stuff. So thanks for infusing some foods and some meals. It's going to be great. I'm definitely going to get down there. I've been trying to get down there ever since Puff Jam back in August, but it's just
Oh
been
man, that was
busy,
fun.
busy,
That was
busy.
fun.
That was so fun.
Good people.
So, Anthony Foster, we're going to let you go. Thanks for coming on. You've got a vape lounge. You should be able to have one if you know the basics of opening up a business. That's about all you really should need to understand how this stuff works. The people want it. The democracy is for it. And the thing I love about it, one of the most favorite things about this entire topic is even the people that don't use it, majority of them don't want there to be all these repressive laws for the folks that do use it. And then you got a few uptight moms and pops running around with an absolute deficit in the facts with these dreamed up moral issues that it's going to be some kind of a problem without looking at the entire scope of what we're dealing with here. So thank God there's people like you out there. I know I turned to a few different lounges. It was really nice for me as a pretty much medical shut-in at the time to be able to not only just feel like a rabbit trapped in my house, not able to go anywhere because I wanted to be safe and I didn't want to show anybody and I was hiding this terrible illegal thing that I was doing. And eventually that bullshit fell off, you know. Yeah. And it was nice to go to places where there are other people using it for either medical or recreational, and I contend they are one and the same. And it's nice to be able to do it, and it's a good thing, and so you can understand why you have a fight against the government right now. But let's hope we can turn all that around and proliferate some of these places because they
need our spaces.
Absolutely,
they need our spaces. I'm thinking of all the reasons why they need our spaces. There's so many.
Give me two more then. Give me two more.
Two more?
Yeah,
okay, well,
two more reasons.
Okay, listen to this. I'm coming to Hamilton. I'm a medical patient. I'm coming to Hamilton to check out the city as a tourist, and maybe maybe I have a doctor's appointment, maybe I have whatever. I got to come to Hamilton. I'm a medical patient. Where am I supposed to smoke? I can't smoke in my hotel. I can't medicate in my hotel. I can't smoke on the street. Where the heck am I supposed to smoke? Where am I supposed to go?
Yeah.
Where am I supposed to vaporize? Where am I supposed to use my medicine? You guys are crazy.
Yeah, it's a bit nuts.
That's one big one. That's a big one. That's a traveling medicating. That's somebody traveling. That one, somebody brought that to my attention, and that one really got me. I was like, people because travel.
Are you meant to do it in your hotel room, and then you get the complaints from the neighbors?
Yeah, and then you got to pay for, and then you pay for the fees, or you might get in. There might be some issue. There's going to be an issue.
I think it's well designed that there are going to be many issues. This is nothing but a hassle-filled series of bullshit hurdles for most of us to get through. And I think there's no way to avoid that because most people want it to be a different way. And most people are not getting what they want in this fake democracy while they quash the ability of people like you to turn out a living and contribute to the economy. And instead, they want to control exactly how everything goes, and they don't even have the fucking facts. So that's pretty sad. But I'm glad you're there and you're on the fight, and I'm happy to call you a friend, and I look forward to seeing you on Friday.
Alan. Thanks, man. Thank you, brother.
It's going to be so cool seeing you on Friday, Anthony.
Okay, man. I will see you Friday, brother.
All right. Take care. Drive safely.
Okay, man. Peace, buddy.
Bye-bye. Boy, that's the end of the Skype call, and it's so frustrating to have to listen to cool people struggle and have to listen to assholes dictate the way things are going to go. But on that note, now it is time for Unblinded Me with Science. This is the segment where we go to the science and we understand that a lot of the stories from the government are completely fictitious or ignoring something that's very salient and very important. So here's an article where that happened. This is in Inverse.com, and it says, cancer patients want to use marijuana, and with good reason. There's a lot we still need to know about weed and cancer. This was written a couple of days ago, September 25th, 2017. Says Joel Brown says he didn't know a lot about pot's properties before he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma cancer in 2014. And then he says, but when you're facing death, you really want to become part of the treatment and figure out what's going on, he says. So I started looking at alternative therapies. Now, this guy's a 28-year-old chef. He lives in Toronto. And You can get legally available weed here, but he was facing 6 months of regular chemotherapy and says he immediately started investigating how weed could help him cope with his treatment, and he's not alone, obviously, or I wouldn't be reading this. A new survey shows that if marijuana is legally available, a lot of people with cancer are likely to use it. And even more are interested in learning about how it could help them during their illness. A team of researchers from the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center surveyed 926 cancer patients at the Seattle Cancer Center Alliance, and according to results published recently in Cancer, a peer-reviewed journal of the American Cancer Society, about 25% of patients used marijuana in the last year. Washington, one of the first states to legalize marijuana, adult possession of weed became legal there in 2012, and retail marijuana stores opened in 2014. The research team also surveyed patients about their perspectives on using marijuana during treatment and found most patients had a strong interest in learning about using weed, with 74% saying they'd like information on marijuana from cancer care providers. And, you've got to get the right people, because when you get a cancer care provider that only wants to talk about how many grays you're getting on the radiation scale, that's not enough. Trust me. Researchers also found that 66% of those had used marijuana in their lifetimes, while 24% used it in the last year and 21% in the last month, and more than half of active users reported that legalization significantly increased their likelihood of using. Which is what you want to understand, is you want to knock down that legal barrier so people that think they might want to get a break from cancer or other illnesses from this stuff can actually use it without the sad, guilty feeling on their shoulder that if it sits there long enough, you need to flick it off because it's a waste of time. Anyway, more than half of active users reported that legalization significantly increased their likelihood of using it and spread across demographic subsets, including age, sex, and cancer diagnosis subsets. A small amount of study on marijuana's ability to alleviate symptoms related to cancer treatment, but not a lot of study done on the users themselves. This is a real problem, this paragraph. There's been a small amount of study on marijuana's ability to alleviate symptoms. Yeah, not enough study. Or you're hiding some of the studies. There are hundreds of studies available that show you specifically how cannabis can crush cancer. A green crush, not just alleviate symptoms, although there's nothing wrong with alleviating symptoms. I like to do it by removing the cause. Brown says he smoked pot in high school but didn't really interact with marijuana very much before starting his chemo treatment in 2008. He has a couple of friends who'd mentioned that pot could help his treatment and they might be listening to the show. And he was willing to try anything. He did it proactively. His doctor said he shouldn't smoke it, but that ingesting it wasn't terrible. Ingesting it wasn't terrible, right? And riding an elevator is also not walking down the staircase. He thinks it's because it wasn't a part of his chemo program, which included a lot of different chemo drugs, that this is the reason why Brown's doctor couldn't directly recommend the pot to him. This is what happens with a lot of people, okay? They use the cannabis to alleviate the symptomatic troubles of the cancer. And I know it's scary. But it's really worth the shot. Let me just put this into a button here. If you get a horrible diagnosis, immediately begin the cannabis oil is what I would do. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm just saying, as soon as you get the diagnosis, start taking the oil, because by the time you get around to whatever treatment they prescribe next week, next month, or 2 months from now, you'll have a lot of oil in you that have taken care of a lot of the issues, and you're going to score better on the next series of tests that they need to give you before you start the treatment, and they'll be wondering why that was, and you won't. The American Cancer Society says that more research is needed on marijuana as a treatment for cancer symptoms. as the drug. This is where you're focusing the gun in the wrong direction. You're not going to hit the target of curative when you're aiming for symptomatic. Says here, more recently, scientists reported that THC, the dreaded THC, and other cannabinoids such as CBD slowed down the growth and or caused death in certain types of cancer cells. These things actually kill themselves, and now we're back to apoptosis. Apoptosis. You don't want this. Apoptosis will get rid of it. Apoptosis is the process of suicide of the cancer cells themselves, leaving the healthy ones alone. Try that chemo. But there's a wide dearth of hard data on this matter. Marijuana's classification as a controlled substance by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency has inhibited much in-depth research on purpose. On purpose. I'm not the first to say it, but I was no less blown off the couch when I read it that I understood this a couple of years ago only, when I was just coming up on my green wave of resurrection, that on the one hand, it's a controlled substance, a Schedule 1, which means by definition that it has no medical value whatsoever. And this same federal government also holds medical patents on it as a remedy for cancer. So it's not helpful, and it's helpful at the same time by the same government, and it doesn't matter if it's Trump, and it doesn't matter if it's Obama, and it doesn't matter if it's Bush, and it doesn't matter if it's Clinton, and we can go all the way back to Nixon. There's a paradigm of control there. I know a lot of people are pissed off about Trump right now, but a lot of the things he's doing are okay with a lot of people who said they hated him. Getting off my mark here, but it's all the same crooked shit. This guy, Brown, says he didn't experience a lot of the nausea associated with chemo until the very end of his treatment. Where pot really helped was in improving his mood and his general outlook during illness. What's also referred to by a lot of uptight medicos and priests and people of kindergarten school type mentality is that it's a crutch. You're using it as a crutch. Why do you need pot to improve your mood and your general outlook during your illness? Why do you need that? Same reason I need vitamin C to keep scurvy away, stupid. Crack open a fucking book, will you? Make it Lester Grinspoon's research from all through the 60s and get back to me later. So this guy did a round of chemo and he'd feel like absolute shit and garbage for like 2 days, but then he'd eat some pot or vaporize. That's predominantly what he was doing, and he'd feel better, like right away. You don't have to spend a lot of time building it up into your body like a lot of different drugs. So here we have some possession laws that are evolving and changing, and the government's trying to regulate the pot market. And this cutting-edge article written just a couple of days ago is telling us how maybe there might be able to be some more research on some of the ways that cancer might help with some of the symptomatic relief. Can you wash this down any further? Get this fucking article out of here. Don't put it up on the site, or put it up on the site, or whatever I'm trying to say. These people are they're telling us a lot of stories here. I mean, I really don't like it. You know, Let's ask you this question. What's next to get crushed on the information wheel? Or let's see. Let's go to okay. Let's start with a fun fact right here. Okay, so we are trying to get Olivia Newton-John on the show. Seems like we struck out on that one. So if we have any Australian listeners or American listeners or know her, we're trying to get the same word out. She is Olivia Newton-John, the famous star from Greece who's been battling breast cancer with cannabis. She's very involved in the industry. Her husband is a grower or something, and she's the one that I want on the show. So, Olivia, we are trying to reach you and your daughter as well, who lives in the States. Help us out here, or we're going to have to go directly to Mr. Cool, another cannabis user. Patrick Stewart uses marijuana every day to treat severe arthritis. Patrick Stewart, the starship captain and great Shakespearean actor, a 76-year-old man of X-Men and Logan fame, says here in Everything Zoomer, which is a paper, I still say that, God. It's a publication on the internet about older folks. And here's a 76-year-old man. And he's a regular user of cannabis. He says he's in favor of the Oxford University Cannabis Research Plan, a biomedicine program at the historic school. It's an important step for Britain in a field of research that has, for too long, been held back by prejudice, fear, and ignorance. Thank you, Captain Picard. You are not kidding. Prejudice, fear, and ignorance. So 2 years ago at 74 in L.A., Stewart was examined by a doctor and given a note giving him legal permission to purchase from a registered outlet a cannabis-based product, which he was advised might help the orthoarthritis in both of his hands. And he uses it in the form of an ointment and as a chewy bar, and is able to sleep better and use his hands more, also known as a crutch. Guess what? You can't even use a crutch without your hands. So why are we in this situation here? Let's just overlap quickly into, we've got a few more minutes here, and I'm going to burn through this shit as fast as I can. I also want to stop just before I get there and say that it's been difficult putting one show a week together as it is. And so what I'd like to do to make that a little bit easier for myself is to make 2 shows a week. We are going to be doing bonus episodes. I've made some mutterings about this earlier in the run of the previous 10 shows. Bonus episodes are coming. We can't get it all in between an interview and everything else, and there's a lot of information that I really want folks to understand, because I think the better you do, the better the chance everybody has at figuring this thing out. So this segment is called Cops or Truth, and we have to wonder why it is that when they want to legalize cannabis and to discuss this, they always go to the cops first. They talk to the cops first. It's always about the cops. This shouldn't be about the cops. Why does there need to be more laws? Why are there more laws when you're making things more free and available? It doesn't make sense. It never has. They've been retooling the police laws ever since they've been mutterings about changing the rules on marijuana. They don't like it. But they've been given the time to adapt and change and make up laws and train officers. And while we wait for the public education program that's soon going to come from these people that tell us this stuff is no good, this pile of shit, oh boy, I'm going to pick it apart before they even write it. We have to wonder why they're always considering the police first, who say they don't use it or don't like it or don't want it. What about the people who use it? What about the medical people who use it? The recreational people who want to use it. The majority of us that don't want to go to jail from using it or knowing people that use it. Especially when you got stuff like this going on. In the globalnews.ca, Canadian police forces ask government to postpone legal marijuana date past July 2018. They want to kick it down the road some more. They haven't quite locked up how they're going to change the paradigm for next summer. And these idiots in Ontario, this trio of idiots who presented this information to us, this proposal that needs to be shut down like any bad proposal. Write your legislator, tell them that. Tell them they need to shut the thanks for the proposal. It stinks, we're not doing it. When you have these police saying, we won't be ready for this yet, what are the people in the proposal doing, telling the rest of us? They've been working on it for a year. You couldn't pick up the phone the Thursday before you dropped the bad news and say, hey, officer, RCMP fella, is this going to be doable for you guys? They would have said no. So don't tell me you've thought this shit out. So the cops aren't going to be ready, number one. Number two, speaking of cops, also on a dark matter for the police is that also on globalnews.ca, here's a headline a couple of days later. This is a dark chapter for the Winnipeg Police Service as an officer is arrested for drug trafficking. And then there's a guy here talking about it, charging an 18-year veteran cop with 34 criminal offenses. And he was probably consulted on the transition from illegal cannabis to legal cannabis before I was. Goodbye, go to jail. Durham region is east of Toronto. It's a huge area encompassing Oshawa, Ajax, Whitby, Pickering, a lot of towns. Durham police charged 2 of their own constables after a drug investigation linked to a bar in Ajax. You know, most stories that wind up using a bar in Ajax are going to go kind of like this. 2 Durham regional police officers have been charged after a year-long investigation into activities at an Ajax bar. Constable Husen Aswat and Constable Amandeep Thakur, both of West Division, have been suspended from duty and being held for bail hearings. Hey, guess what, folks? A lot of cops are crooked. And you want to consult with this organization of folks before you push this through. Canadian police are trying to stop marijuana legalization, says the Montreal blog, because of course they are. High-ranking members of Canadian police forces. So that's the Association of Police Chiefs, right? They want the Trudeau government to delay the marijuana legalization. And so do I, kind of, because I want the whole proposal to go down the toilet, both on the federal and provincial aspect, after having looked at it enough. Like, why set up a piece of garbage that's not going to work properly, just so we can see how it is and fix it later? It's dumb. Here it is. Representatives from the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police told the House of Commons Health Committee there's a 0 chance they'll be able to effectively regulate the new legal framework by next year. Police associations said they'd need anywhere from 6 months to a year after July 2018 to be fully prepared for legalized marijuana in Canada. If not, black market marijuana sales and organized crime will flourish, said an OPP deputy. And once again, these are all facts that will take place, despite the fact the government told us they've been working on it for a year. A year! And then Quebec weighs in from the Montreal Gazette. The pot plant's moving too fast. It doesn't address hash, edibles, Quebec warns. Of course, Quebec's going to bring up the hash issue. Man, if you want to get some good hash, get it from Quebec. But they're warning Ottawa the plans are going ahead too quickly to do it. And the devil's in the details. And the other benefit that Quebec has is they've seen the gigantic turd ball of an egg that Kathleen Wynne has laid from her personal recipe book of incompetence. And they don't want to do it. So they're just going to hang tough for a while. Good for Quebec, distinctly getting it done. We'll see what they propose later. Now, these cannabis lounges, we were talking with Anthony earlier. This punk counselor, Glenn de Bearmaker, says that cannabis lounge owners, quote, must be smoking something. If they expect to get licensed. Thanks, Glenn de Bearmaker. Why is that? Says here, members, this is on cbc.ca, members of the Cannabis Friendly Business Association plan to ask Toronto's Municipal Licensing and Standards Committee for regulation in the light of the federal legalization of marijuana. Local lounge owners argue that provincial regulation, which says marijuana can only be consumed in the privacy of home, is not feasible. Well, if it's not feasible, you can pretty much count on the government putting that together. And you have to wonder why they're doing it. So we now turn to potfacts.ca and get this headline from April 11th this year. The Liberal Party elite is heavily invested in the medical marijuana license producers' mail-order business. Justin Trudeau was first introduced to legalization by Tweed marijuana licensed co-founder Chuck Rafisi, who's gotten rich as a consequence of his investment in his licensed producer and who has been agitating for all competing dispensaries and cannabis sellers to be arrested and shut down. You heard me right. A guy who kicked off one of the biggest weed production facilities in the country only wants his facility to be selling things, and he's a party policy director for Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of this country. He's currently the CFO, Chuck Rafisi is, of the Liberal Party, the Chief Financial Officer. Isn't it funny that the Chief Financial Officer is a big-time dispensary magnate over there at Tweed? He used to be the CEO of Tweed. And it turns out Mark Zekulin, the CEO of Tweed, is a former advisor to the former Ontario Finance Minister. Norman Inkster, the independent director at Metrum, is the former head of the RCMP. Joshua Tepper, he's a doctor. He's an independent director at Metrum, former assistant deputy prime minister of health, senior medical officer for Health Canada. You see the rotating door here. You get it in the States all the time. Somebody's in the FDA, they change a bunch of rules that are friendly to companies, and then that guy leaves the FDA and he goes to work at that company later on. So we're going to do, one of the bonus episodes we're going to do is we're going to do some in-depth profiles on a lot of these former right-wing, a lot of them, and former governmental people who have said that cannabis is bad and they now profit on it. Got to get them out of there. And we're just about out of time. We got about 5 or 6 minutes left. Oh, my God. So let me burn through this real quickly. On the note of the ridiculous article that we just had telling us about maybe some symptomatic relief sometimes if you try it once in a while. I'm going to turn this over to she's been corresponding with us, a Green Crush, back and forth. It's Clara Sexton. And you could probably find her on Facebook, Clara, C-L-A-R-A, Sexton. And she's a scientist. We're going to have her on the show at one point, hopefully, if she's not too shy and can talk on a microphone. But I'm going to leave you with this assessment from Sarah. Or, sorry, Clara. Clara Sexton. I said Sarah, I meant Clara. This article, she says, we have, in fact, according to the American Cancer Society, she says, properties in weed that actually have the potential to combat cancer cells. The enzyme CYP-1B1 was discovered in 2007 by pharmaceutical research. And in 2007, that particular pharmaceutical research, turns out that Potter, Burke, and Schaefer were the 3 pharmaceutical researchers, and they have identified the cancer enzyme, enabling them to make a cancer treatment that works. Hello! Can we bring some of that up at the hearings? Didn't even get into the hearings today. Oh, God. Yeah, we're going to do bonus episodes. They keep trying to find a treatment, and meanwhile they have one. The treatment for prostate cancer sold for $2 billion. This is 10 years ago. They had a $2 billion sale on a cancer treatment for prostate cancer that works 10 years ago, which is also 6 years before I was stricken. Identifying the cancer enzyme enabled them to make a cancer treatment that works, folks. The treatment for prostate cancer sold for $2 billion. They kept trying to find a treatment for other cancer and found that the phytochemicals of the family salvestrol directly act on 90% of cancers. So yes, it's been proven in a lab that there are plant chemicals that target cancer cells. So good job staying on the ball there, American Cancer Society. It only took you 10 years to mention this in passing. You'll notice in that article as well from Inverse.com about the gentleman who was just getting introduced to cannabis in his 20s, that when he ate large quantities of marijuana, that's how he was able to ingest the salvestrols. These are key components from cannabis that help you turn your life around. You have to eat the plant. If you're anywhere near unhealthy, you could be suffering from a cannabis deficit. Like a vitamin C or vitamin B12 deficit, you need cannabinoids. And they're found in the cannabis plant. And they feed you, and they keep you healthy. The endocannabinoid system is provided by your maker. Those receptors in your body are connected to your brain for a reason. These maker-provided CB1 and CB2 receptors, they don't care about your cockeyed sense of morals, about how you think you're such a good Christian, keeping yourself and the interests of others away from the devil's weed. Well, dummy, you've been played. No shame in that. We all get played. God, I'm coming out of a year of it. But now you know. And it's time to change. Anti-Christian hardly. You cling to telling me that I can't consume what was provided for me on page 1 of the Bible, and I'll call you anti-Christian for disrespecting your God-given body to the point of starving it out of what it really needs all the way down to disease. You got it wrong. You need this substance more than most. My God, you're on the wrong path by shunning it, by believing the government is benevolent, by restricting it. Don't worry about the law, folks. You need it to save your ass. Fuck the law. Save your life. This is Green Crush. It's been nice. Have a good week.